There is a bird at your feeder right now, or there was one this morning. You watched it. Maybe a chickadee, maybe a goldfinch. It landed, fed, lifted off, and vanished toward the tree line. What you probably didn't see was where it went next. Because the most dangerous place in your yard isn't the hawk circling overhead. It isn't the neighborhood cat crouched beneath the shrub. It is the glass panel you look through every single day. Windows kill more birds in the United States than almost any other human-made structure. Not occasionally, not in rare conditions. Every day, in every season, in every yard where there is glass and there are birds, which is nearly every yard in America. The bird you watched this morning may have survived, but statistically, in the course of a year,
Many believe that birds simply collide with glass by pure accident.
Most people assume window strikes are
This is
accidents. A bird panics, flies erratically, hits glass by mistake. That's the story we tell ourselves, partly because it makes the event feel random and therefore unavoidable. But the science tells a different story. Birds don't fly into windows because they are confused or frightened or poorly coordinated. They fly into windows because glass, to a bird's eye, does not look like glass. It looks like continuation. It looks like the open sky reflected in a pane at a certain angle. It looks like the tree branch on the other side of the room, visible through two windows set across from each other in a hallway. The bird is not making an error in judgment. The bird is flying toward exactly what it sees, and what it sees is not there. That distinction matters more than it might seem, and understanding why requires understanding something about how a bird actually sees the world. Birds have 4 types of cone cells in their eyes. You have 3. That additional cone type extends their color vision into the ultraviolet spectrum, wavelengths completely invisible to human perception. They see a world painted in frequencies you cannot access. And for most of avian evolutionary history, that extraordinary vision served them perfectly. Glass did not exist in nature. Transparent, reflective, flat surfaces, perfectly mimicking the sky or the foliage behind them, had no place in the environments birds evolved within. Their visual system had no reason to develop a response to it. So when a bird approaches your window and sees reflected trees, reflected sky, what registers in its nervous system is not obstacle. It registers as path. A 2019 study from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology confirmed that birds cannot reliably distinguish glass from open air under normal lighting conditions. This is not a flaw in the bird. It is a collision between two worlds, one ancient, one entirely new. The scale of what happens next is difficult to absorb slowly. A landmark study published in The Condor, Ornithological Applications in 2014, led by Dr. Klem Jr. of Muhlenberg College, who has studied window strikes longer than almost anyone alive, estimated that between 365 million and 1 billion birds die from window collisions in the United States every single year. That range reflects the challenge of counting deaths that happen quietly, at the back of a house, beneath a deck, in a flower bed where the body is found by a cat or a crow before a human ever sees it. The lower bound alone, 365 million, places window strikes as the second leading human-caused source of bird mortality in the country, behind only habitat loss. Cats kill an estimated 1.3 to 4 billion birds per year. Windows are behind only that. Not behind cars, not behind wind turbines, not behind power lines. Behind only cats. 1 billion birds. That number does not arrive with a sound. There is no moment in your yard when you feel it. There is only the occasional soft thud against the glass, a sound so ordinary you may have stopped registering it. Or the small body on the sill you found once and moved without fully thinking about where it came from. The research suggests that most homes with windows experience between 1 and 10 bird strikes per year. That sounds manageable, but there are approximately 123 million housing units in the United States. Even at one strike per home per year, the arithmetic becomes staggering before you finish the sentence. And the distribution is not even. Homes near wooded areas, near migration corridors, with large windows or opposing windows that create a see-through effect, those homes sit at one end of a spectrum that makes the average feel like a reassurance it isn't. Not all windows are equal in their danger, and not all moments in the year carry the same risk. Spring and fall migration seasons, roughly March through May and August through November, are when collision rates spike. Birds that have never seen your particular house before are moving through unfamiliar territory at night, navigating by stars and magnetic field. When morning comes, they drop into whatever habitat is available, and your yard, with its feeders and water and shrubs, looks like exactly what a tired, hungry migrant needs. What it doesn't prepare them for is the glass. Dr. Klem's research identified specific window types as most dangerous. Large picture windows, windows with feeders placed too close, within 1 to 2 meters, and windows that create a visual corridor through a house. The bird sees the yard on one side. It sees what looks like the continuation of that yard through the glass. It flies straight through what is not there. Think about the windows in your house right now. Not the small ones, the large ones. The ones you placed a chair near because the light is good. The ones that face the garden, the feeder, the tree where the nuthatch works its way down the bark every afternoon. Is there a window on the opposite wall? Can you see through the house from one side to the other? That transparency, the thing that makes your home feel open, connected to the outside, is precisely what creates the hazard. A 2021 study published in PLOS One by researchers at the American Bird Conservancy tested how birds respond to different window treatments and found that the see-through effect of opposing windows was among the top 3 most hazardous configurations in residential architecture. The beauty of your house and the danger of your house are, in several specific ways. Some species are more vulnerable than others. This is not random. It correlates strongly with behavior and habitat preference. Forest birds, species that navigate dense, 3-dimensional environments and rely on speed and agility, are disproportionately represented in collision data. Ovenbirds, wood thrushes, warblers during migration, ruby-throated hummingbirds, whose flight speed and trajectory make recovery from a near miss almost impossible. A 2023 analysis published in Ornithological Applications by researchers at the Field Museum in Chicago, led by Dr. Brian Weeks, examined over 40,000 window strike specimens collected over the course of 4 decades. They found that species with longer wingspans relative to body size, birds built for open space flight, were significantly more likely to die on impact than compact, maneuverable species. The bird most perfectly designed for graceful aerial movement is, in a precise and ironic way, the most likely to be killed by glass. Here is the reversal that takes a moment to settle. You can make your windows safer for birds, not by making them harder to see through from the inside, but by making them more visible from the outside. The solution is not to obscure your view. It is to break up the reflection that the bird sees. And the threshold for effectiveness is surprisingly specific. Research from the American Bird Conservancy, confirmed by studies at multiple institutions across Europe and North America, established what is called the 2x4 rule. External markings on glass, dots, lines, patterns, spaced no more than 2 inches apart horizontally and 4 inches apart vertically, are sufficient to alert a bird to the presence of a surface. Inside those dimensions, birds will not attempt to fly through. Outside them, if the spacing is wider, they will. 2 inches by 4 inches. The architecture of safety is that precise. The materials available now are different from what existed even a decade ago. UV reflective films, coatings that appear nearly transparent to human eyes, but that reflect ultraviolet light back at birds, making the glass visible to them, have moved from experimental to commercially available. A 2020 study from the Muhlenberg College of Science and Technology at Chapman University tested multiple UV patterned films and found meaningful reductions in strike rates when films were applied externally rather than internally. The key is placement. The film must be on the outside of the glass, where the bird encounters the reflection before impact, not on the inside, where it cannot affect the bird's perception at all. There are also simpler interventions: soap-based window markers, tempera paint, netting stretched a few inches from the glass surface, strings hung vertically every few inches. All of these work, not because they are elaborate, but because they interrupt the illusion.
Go back to the feeder, the one you fill on Saturday mornings, the one where you know by now which birds come first and which wait on the branch until the dominant ones leave. You placed it where you did because you wanted to watch. That impulse, to be close to the birds, to narrow the distance between your world and theirs, is exactly right. But the distance between feeder and window matters. Dr. Klem's research found that feeders placed within half a meter of a window, almost touching the glass, produce far fewer fatal strikes than feeders placed at 1 to 2 meters away. The reason is counterintuitive, but logical. At half a meter, a bird that hits glass has not built up enough velocity to cause fatal injury. At 2 meters, it has. If you can't move the feeder to beyond,
there's something else happening in the window strike data that researchers are only beginning to understand. The birds that survive strikes, and many do, at least initially, don't always survive the hour that follows. A bird that hits glass and flutters to the ground beneath your window may appear to recover. It sits still, it breathes, it rights itself. You watch it, relieved, and after a few minutes, it flies away. But a 2016 study from the University of Alberta found that a significant percentage of birds that appeared to recover from window strikes died within 24 hours from internal hemorrhaging, traumatic brain injury, or compromised immune response triggered by acute stress. If you find a stunned bird beneath your window, the worst thing you can do for the bird is leave it on the ground. What to do instead, and why it matters, is something the data makes very clear. A stunned bird on the ground is not resting. It is exposed, vulnerable to cats, to corvids, to a hawk that has learned to watch the base of windows in yards with feeders. The correct response, supported by wildlife rehabilitators and confirmed by protocol from the American Bird Conservancy, is to place the bird gently in a small cardboard box with air holes in a dark, quiet space, away from pets and noise, for 30 to 60 minutes. Darkness reduces stress hormones. Quiet allows the vestibular system to stabilize. If after an hour the bird is alert and upright, release it near cover, not in the open. If it is not alert, or if one eye is closed, contact a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology maintains a searchable database at allaboutbirds.org, where you can find the nearest one. A bird you place in a box this afternoon may be at your feeder again tomorrow morning. The chickadee that was at your feeder this morning, or the goldfinch, or the nuthatch, exists inside a population that has already absorbed significant pressure. North America has lost approximately 3 billion birds since 1970, according to a 2019 study published in Science, led by Dr. Kenneth Rosenberg of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. That's roughly 29% of the total bird population. The causes are multiple and compounding: habitat loss, pesticide use, cat predation, climate disruption, and windows, every single day at every house in every season. You cannot fix habitat loss from your backyard. You cannot reverse 29%. But you can cover your windows with a pattern 2 inches by 4 inches, move a feeder 18 inches closer to the glass, place a stunned bird in a box. Those are not small things. They are the specific, available actions that exist at the scale of 1 yard. And 1 yard at a time is how the arithmetic moves in the other direction.